music, theater of the oppressed with music, new instruments to
Devo
work
spegnere.
with oppressed communities.
Ok, I have
We
to
at
switch off.
MUS-E, Cyprus and Jolly Cooperativa Sociale in Italy are carrying out the project to merge practices of the theater of the oppressed as developed by the Brazilian playwright Augusto Boal, to merge them with practices of listening and music. Participants from Cyprus and other countries. We have different countries this evening. We have United States, Sweden, Germany, many countries. Thank you for attending. It's a pleasure. And they're okay with English, but the Italian attendees, many Italian attendees have asked for some help with translation to be sure that they can follow the details. So we provide the translation into the chat. The translation into Italian into the chat for what concerning my speech and the speech of Mr. Levy. The speech by Dr. Kalibas and Dr. Loto will be in Greek and will be translated not in the chat but in the video verbally by Dr. Kalibas. So for the Italians who want to have a bit of help with the translation, please follow the speech in the chat. This evening we have Maestro Levi with us, Maestro Daniel Levi, the pianist, philosopher, author, educator, and founder of the International Academy of Euphony. And then we have two researchers, Dr. Spiridon Kalibas and Dr. Eri Lotu, with a special and unique contribution to this event. We hope that by the end of this workshop, you'll bring with you a wider picture of your listening skills, along with the desire to apply your listening skills into your personal life and work. In particular, we hope that you leave our virtual room with many questions generated by our discussion. Of course, you can share some of these questions with us. Now I will make a very brief overview of the research on listening that is continuously increasing thanks to the seminal works of enlightened researchers. Worldwide, it appears that listening is an art that can be practiced and can be taught. But in our educational systems, listening is, as a discipline, is totally absent. There's no listening lessons. Listening is not included in the curricula of primary and secondary schools, nor at university level, except for very few exceptions. Many years are dedicated to learn reading, but not listening. As a matter of fact, in our societies, when a baby is born, the parents just verify that their child can hear, ignoring the necessity and wonder of developing listening skills as a lifelong process. Many still don't realize the difference between hearing and listening. As a culture, we treat listening as an automatic process about which there is not much to say, like a digestion, something like this. One of the questions to bring with you may be why listening has not been taught. mention now some valuable researchers. One of the that I would like to mention, and we can start with Ralph Nichols. Ralph Nichols, born in 1907, 1107, known as the father of listening, published over 30 works that shaped the study of listening behavior. In Are You Listening?, a book that he wrote called Are You Listening? In 1957, he revealed how education neglects listening and showed that most people listen with only 25% efficiency. His work laid the foundation for research, pedagogy, and training programs, and his vision that speakers and listeners share equal responsibility remains vital for learning, growth, and human understanding. Carl Rogers was born in 1902. A leading psychologist introduced the concept of active listening. First developed in psychotherapy, he insisted that it applied to all human relationships. Listening well is one of the most powerful forms of connection. Roger believed that a therapist should be less a problem solver and more a sort of skilled midwife, drawing out solutions that already existed in the clients in a meiotical process. Central to this was patient-focused listening, essential for growth, self-insight, and genuine respect for others. Roger stressed that listening to oneself is a prerequisite to truly listening to others. Pauline Oliveros. Pauline Oliveros at 9, still in the United States, these are in the United States, both Nichols and Rogers. Also Pauline Oliveros. At 9, she began playing the accordion, and at 16, she decided to become a composer. She dedicated herself to electronic music, and she's known for her sound meditations, a set of practices based on her philosophy of deep listening. So we have seen active listening, deep listening. Deep listening is a process, for Pauline Oliveros, is a process of extended and conscious listening, which goes beyond the simple perception of sound to explore its impact on the body, mind, and consciousness. Take a walk at night. Walk so silently that the bottoms of your feet become ears. Ears. This is one of the exercises, meditation number 5, from the book she wrote, with all these exercises which are about deep listening. Overall, the subject of listening is attracting attention, and we have research worldwide. There is a long list of researchers, and I have very few minutes to dedicate to this overview, so I don't want to go on listening other researchers, because I would like to give more space to the one that we have here at this meeting. It's a long list. If you can see, maybe you see from the screen, we have in Australia, we have in Canada, we have in France, In France, we have Tomatis, Alfred Tomatis. He was very important for listening. In Italy, also, there's a huge, in Canada, we have Schaffer with the soundscapes that has been influencing many researchers worldwide about his soundscapes. In Italy, in Japan. We'll give you this information perhaps later as an handout, but at the moment we don't focus now on all this long list of researchers. This is just to give you an idea that listening is something we need to focus on, and there are a lot of research on it. You may find a quantity of information also on the International Listening Association that is advancing listening practices, teaching, and research worldwide. They have categorized listening research into many categories. There's listening and education, listening and business, listening and healthcare, listening and technology, listening and music, listening and spirituality and sports, politics and leadership, listening styles, listening competence and strategies, hearing language, memory, bias and barriers across lifespan. You may also want to check the activity of the Global Listening Center that promotes listening for global peace. There are composers and musicians who feel the vastity of listening, and they have written texts that may add to the comprehension of this innate faculty. What is essential, however, is not much how many names and concepts we may add to our knowledge. What is essential is to regain the connection with our deep cultural roots in a way that is not just intellectual. All our deepening into listening should include practice in life, through living the experience of a listening that connects with our own self, with other human beings, with other kingdoms of nature like animals, plants, water. Listening has no limits. What I have learned in years is that I really know almost nothing about listening. Because when I overcome a limit in my listening, I become aware of an immensity that can be explored only through a highly developed sense of hearing, something like a new subtle organ that I wish all the humans will build one day. To put it simply, I'd like to quote a sentence of Ellen Ralston. Ellen Ralston was a receiver of the ILA Special Recognition Award, International Listening Association Award. And when giving her this award, she was asked to describe listening in only 3 words. And she replied, the 3 words can be, there is more. When I just mentioned our deep cultural roots, I mean really deep. From ancient Egypt, from Orpheus, from Pythagoras. What we listen of, what's the listening of the music of the spheres, which are the planets, was for Pythagoras. What is the origin of sound and words, the sounds of our words, our voice, the sounds that we emit to communicate. One of the questions posed by Dr. Ralph Nichols, I was mentioning before, the father of listening code is called like this. One of the questions he posed was, should efficient listener be exempt? No, not this slides, please. One of the questions posed by Dr. Ralph Nichols was, should efficient listeners be exempt from further listening training? In other words, those who can listen properly, do they have to continue to learn? We might guess the answer. And when asking ourselves, why should I become a better listener? We may reflect on the words of Ptahhotep. Now the slide, please. An ancient Egyptian vizier, which are like this. Listening benefits the listener. If the listener listens completely, then the listener becomes one who understands. Listening is better than anything else. Thus, perfect love is born. This is one of the maxims of Ptahhotep. Thank you very much for listening this very brief introduction, and I give space to Maestro Levi, who will give us some specific information and possibly experiences through listening to him about the euphonic, humanistic listening. Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you also for your introduction. That was very clear. I wish also to be giving a few lines of my very recent consciousness about what is happening. The main focus really, or core of the theater of the oppressed, created by Boal, from its beginnings was really to let express and share and solve conflicts through acting, a sort of brainstorming on both parts, actors and audience. From this pattern was born what the idea of what he said, like is a spect actor. But the essence of this work was and is listening. Without this, there is no actor, there's no theater, there is no audience. And then the key of what he created in this case, and it's very important to make a point on this, is that listening was the key, or is the key. On the other side, it's very clear also that when you find oppressed people in the world, it means that there are oppressors. And this is not surprise. It's not surprising. There are both parts. But what happened with oppressors? They are like conscious deafs, without any ear problem, but yet they are not listening. then the main problem really that we're facing now in our world is linked directly with the lack of listening. After so many researchers, after so many teachings coming from thousands of years, the case of Egypt, we are still with some lack of listening. And what happens with us in this case? Someone said that we need to clean our ears. You quoted Murray Schafer. He was really fighting, striving all the time about how to clean our ears, to listen. And not just to listen music, just to listen each other. That is maybe the most important problem and thing that we face now. Someone also said that we are like in a Babel tower, where there are so many languages at the same time, different, without listening each other. And at the same time, in this Babel are like if we are deaf. Then, even if there are different languages, we are not even listening. It's just a bit of hearing. That is not enough. Absolutely not enough. And then, as we really learn to write, learn to read, learn to talk, what's happening with learning to listen? We need, surely, urgently, school and university for listening, to really study and practice that. But the main problem in this moment is, do we have time to do it? It's needed, because it's needed for children and from everybody. But there is a school, there is a university, there is a subject, there are matters about this very important fact. Even if we have so many lists of listening in science, listening in politics, listening in, but what is happening that we are not practicing this. In my experience, what I can just tell you is that music is the highest teacher for this. Because what's happening even with words, maybe there were not enough, because we have all the subjects, all the matters, all the facts that are lacking. And something happens that we didn't practice that. In very few occasions, we could find really listeners that can offer to us something. And this is really a confusion of things. When we talk about euphony and then about listening and about what it looks like a sentence, euphonic or humanistic, euphonic listening, it looks too much. But it's not too much, because there is a principle. And I like to give just this principle in very, very few words. As you remember, surely, in the Greek theater existed something that was called persona. The persona was just a mask that served to the actor to amplify his voice, that could be listened in all the theater, and on the other side, it was not just an amplifier, but it was something that was hiding something that was behind the mask. Who was making sounds? Who was behind the mask? In fact, in psychology and so many other researchers, we call persona and personality our life and our way of understanding who we are. We have a personality. What it means, this personality? This personality is something that serves us to express what we are. And then there is something that I read to you, very small sentence, that say that our personality is a complex musical instrument with plenty of registers, organ pipes, and multiple keyboards as an organ. The main task of euphony, and this is the fact, is the harmonic emission of our note and tone, and to make music with it. Our resonant cavities must be clean. This is part of what Schaeffer said about clean your ears and then clean constantly your mind. And without any obstruction, to let the emission be limpid. The strings must be with the right tension to resonate. And the tuning needs to be well tempered. Then the musician can play. What is behind the mask? Behind the person, the persona in the Greek theater, is a musician, is a gifted self, is our gift self. This is very important to understand, because when we talk about euphony, we say, but what's that? It's just the best, nice, beautiful, and true sound. Yes, this is just, but who is producing this sound? Who is producing this sound is the main actor that is behind the mask. Something that is in ourselves and serves really to make a very limpid emission of our note, of our sound, of what we are doing, and especially how we are listening. There is something more about this, that is that when we say persona, we say also personare, personality. And then we are talking about the origin of sound that is behind. Today, music is understood just as a relation between a composer, an interpreter, an audience. But that's not music. This is part of music. This is a fragment of what is music. We are all musicians. And then we can really start to make a deep emission, but at the same time to learn. Why not learn to listen? There is something that I brought for you that maybe so many of you know, but it's very nice to again give a symbol, a significance of what it means, because it's like a principle that is really a story, something that is like a tale, but that is very nice and at the same time very deep. I will read to you this and say, many years ago, in a wonderful jungle of the Americas, numerous families lived together in perfect harmony. Families of animals, like the mischievous monkeys, dazzling birds of 1,000 colors, curious insects, majestic felines, and of course, humans. There were also families of trees, plants, and flowers, and even the family of the sky, the rain, the sun, and the clouds, which lit up the landscape with their glow. Every month, these extraordinary beings gathered in a circle to talk and organize themselves. They discussed vital matters. When they needed rain, when they wanted the sun to shine, how tall the trees could grow so the sun's rays could caress the flowers, and which plants and flowers the human could enjoy. In these gatherings, they shared their feelings and spoke about what was meaningful to each other, to each member of their families. They told fascinating stories of their experiences and shared wishes and dreams. Each meeting was a unique opportunity to strengthen bonds of friendship and find ways to improve their life together in the jungle. However, there was a big challenge. When the meeting day came, everyone was so excited to tell their stories that they all spoke at the same time, creating a deafening uproar. For several months, they tried to meet, but they could not understand one another. One day, a human child, the youngest of his family, decided it was time to change that situation. He wanted to share something important that had happened to him. But he felt his voice was lost in the noise. With courage, he picked up a stick from the ground and holding it with both hands proposed, "What if we make this stick the talking stick?" Intrigued, the others said, "What does that mean?" The boy explained that from that moment on, the only person allowed to speak at the meeting would be the one holding the stick. That way, everyone would have their turn to be heard, without the chaos of overlapping voices. The idea was welcomed with enthusiasm by the other families of animals and humans. They realized that this new tool for communication would allow them to understand and respect one another. They would feel listened. Listen this. They would feel listened to and understood. And they could make better decisions. Because when one feels heard, one opens up to listening to others. At that moment, and this is very nice, a gorilla, moved by the idea, took the stick and exclaimed, "We can make it even more beautiful. Each of us can add something that represents us and decorate the stick. That way, it will belong to everyone." Each family began to think of how to adorn the talking stick. The lions left their powerful paw print. The birds added bright feathers and danced in the wind. The mice offered a strand of their soft whiskers. The fish added shiny scales, and the snakes a warm lick. The flowers offered their fragrant pollen, the trees fresh green leaves, the clouds a heat and a bit of their fluffy cotton, and the generous sun gave a touch of its golden light. With the stick decorated by all, the day of the meeting arrived. From then on, whenever they gathered, they did so with a talking stick at the center of the circle. In this way, everyone learns to listen and to be listened to, creating an atmosphere of respect and friendship in the wonderful jungle where they lived. And so, in that corner of the world, communication blossomed, and the jungle vibrated with the stories and laughter of all its inhabitants, united by the talking stick. Because the rules of that are that only the person holding the stick may speak. That person will pass it once they feel understood and listened to. Those without the stick may not speak, argue, or interrupt. The only thing they may do is listen and make the speaker feel valued and heard. When the stick is brought out, it is the moment for communication, both speaking and listening. One must see each situation, and that's the main focus, through the eyes and heart of the person holding the stick. This is a legend, certainly, story, but it's a story that is really teaching us something about the principles of listening, that is not just to let the other speak, but to understand. And when they say here, one must see each situation through the eyes and heart of the person holding the stick. That's part of euphonic, humanistic listening, because it's not just enough to listen consciously or with active listening or even with deep listening, if finally what happens is that we remain the same after listening. As we do not remain the same when we listen music, the same must be when we are really trying to solve situations, to solve conflicts, to make really that the gift that we have listening would really make some evolution for our world. Then there is certainly a certain science, an art of listening. But when it happened that an art could be really learned in 2 minutes or in 1 hour, everything, well, what we can do is certainly put the principles and to try to practice constantly the fact of something that is opening in our minds, in our hearts. In this case, I didn't want really to make any type of audition of music, because I think that in this particular case, what we need is to remember that story. That is not simply the fact of the talking stick, but it's a listening stick. We need to have really a listening stick, each one of us, that we pass to others, where we can really connect. Music can bring certainly life, Music is an energy. Music is not just a concert. Music is not coming just for a recital or for a theater or for a place where people is playing. Music is something more than that. I always say that in this our time, and more or less always happen like that, music is like Cinderella, always put apart, like something that is, we say, very important, but it's not so important as it is. And music really is the teacher in this case, when we must learn something about how principles of sound and silence happens in music, we can understand what we could do with that. Because it's the same. We have also pauses, we have also breathing, we have phrases, we have a language, we have emotions, we have thoughts, we have intuitions, as happens in music. Music can be really given in a very synthetic way. My very last words now are not mine, but I was really inspired to put it here, and are some things that were really written by Walt Whitman. And he says this: do not let the day end without having grown a bit, without being happy, without having risen your dreams. Do not let overcome, but disappointment. Do not let anyone you remove the right to express yourself, which is almost a duty. Do not forsake the yearning to make your life something special. Be sure to believe that words and poetry, it can change the world. Whatever happens, our essence is intact. We are beings full of passion. Life is desert and oasis. We break down, hurts us, teaches us, makes us protagonists of our own history. Although the wind blows against the powerful work continues. You can make a stanza, never stop dreaming, because in a dream, man is free. Do not fall into the worst mistakes, the silence. Most live in deathful silence. Do not resign, escape. Issued by my screams roof of this world, says the poet. Rate the beauty of the simple things. You can make beautiful poetry on little things, but we cannot row against ourselves. That transforms life into hell. Think that you are the future and facing the task with pride and without fear. Learn from those who can teach you, the experience of those who preceded us in our dead poets, help you walk through life. Today's society is as poets alive. Do not let life pass you living without that. In my experience, it's a really euphonic poem, because it's giving to us something that is included in euphony, that is joy at the same time. It's the joy to feel that we are really sound, that we are word, poetry, music, and then that we can really start to change listening. For my part, that's all for today. Thank you to you and for your attention.
Grazie, thank you very much. I was trying to translate, but possibly I couldn't translate the Walt Whitman poem. Maybe we can read it again, or we can.
I think that you can find in is Carpe Diem.
Yes.
In Italian, surely.
Okay. The
Otherwise,
title.
I could send to you.
The title of the poem is
Carpe Diem.
Carpe Diem. Carpe Diem. I'll try just, if I'm lucky, to find it in Italian now, so I can share it, because I couldn't translate.
Yes, now I'm sending in English, but there is a Spanish translation. Then I'm sure you can find in Italian, because it's part of the whole poems of the in his writings. But this is very particular about how can we express ourselves.
Non la trovo in italiano adesso. Vediamo se riusciamo a fare un download. No, l'ho trovata in spagnolo.
Sì.
Comunque, niente, lasciamola così. Lasciamola così e magari poi ognuno può cercarla. Walt Whitman, Carpe Diem.
We are now trying to do an Italian translation. Maybe it will not be perfect, but we are sending now.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maestro Devi. Any questions? Do you have any questions or reflections, or some ideas that came to you while listening that you want to share? We would be very pleased. Avete qualche idea che volete condividere o qualche domanda che volete fare? E potete anche farla in italiano e la traduciamo. Questo è il momento. Se non c'è, possiamo continuare. E sì, c'è una domanda. Sì, dottor Calivas.
Sì, ancora mi riesco. Mi ascoltate?
Sì, si ascolta. Dovresti in inglese e in italiano, allora.
Sì, ho sentito questa bellissima favola dal signor Daniel. Volevo dire, è una favola che possiamo trovare e appartiene a qualche tribù o qualcosa della comunicazione. Mr. Daniel, this meraviglious story that you have said to us belong to some specific part of Africa or something we can find in some way? What is the...
In my research, it belongs to something that is coming from Central America.
Central America.
Yeah, but what's happening with this fact of the stick? There are traditions in North America, in some very important that were civilizations really, where the fact of the stick for the word is something practiced. But there is no this story about something that is connected with nature. In this case, is everything that tries to express,
Yes.
and then collaborate. And then this idea that is coming symbolically by a child is very important, because he tries to say we must understand each other, and then everybody's trying to make something nice of this. But in my idea is coming from Central America, and in fact we will try maybe to make a translation, because there is no I couldn't find this in English.
Thank you very much.
No.
Grazie. C'è qualche altra domanda? Noi abbiamo parecchi ospiti stasera e probabilmente c'è qualche altra domanda o riflessione che volete comunicare. Siamo qui. Io posso tradurre dall'italiano, nel caso. Benissimo. Allora, se nessuno alza la mano, io passerei a questo punto la parola al dottor Spiros e alla dottoressa Eri Lotu. So if there is no one who would like to say anything in this moment, or just keep your reflections with you, and I will pass to the intervention, to the wonderful contribution you see now of Dr. Kalibas and Dr. Lotu. Thank you very much, Spiridon and Eddie.
Good evening to everybody. We will talk about something about communication. Communication between everything is a question of frequencies. Sound is one kind of those frequencies. Between frequencies, I think that God communicates with everything in the universe. Humans, we create more complex frequencies for communicate. Words and music is one kind of them. Can I tell you also in Italian?
Yes, please.
Che la comunicazione attraverso tutto nell'universo è questione di frequenze. Allora il suono delle parole è una di queste frequenze. E le frequenze, tramite le frequenze Dio comunica con tutto nell'universo. Gli esseri umani abbiamo creato delle frequenze un pochino più complesse, e le parole e la musica è una di queste. Ma cosa significa parola? But what words means? Now we begin to explain.
Αρχής σοφίας ή επί των ονομάτων επίσκεψης.
L'inizio della saggezza è l'analisi e la conoscenza delle parole. The beginning of wisdom is the analysis and knowledge of the words.
Η Αλτάνη, η σύγχρονη ελληνίστρια γλωσσολόγος, άριστη γνώστρια της αρχαιοελληνικής γλώσσας και φιλοσοφίας, όσο λίγοι άνθρωποι στον κόσμο μας, αναφέρει κάτι πολύ σημαντικό. Ο νους είναι λέξης μυστηριακή, διότι έχει αποκρύψει στη διπλή της έννοια το γράμμα νη και ους. Τη δύναμη της νοημοσύνης, λοιπόν, που αναπτύσσεται μέσω της ακοής, ους, αρχαιοελληνικά το αυτή.
Altani, il linguista ellenistico moderno, un eccellente esperto della lingua e della filosofia greca antica, come poche persone al mondo, menziona qualcosa di molto importante. La mente è una parola misteriosa, perché nasconde nel doppio significato nous, mente, plus us, orecchio, il potere dell'intelligenza che si sviluppa attraverso l'udito. Al-Thani, the modern Hellenistic linguist and excellent expert of the ancient Greek language and philosophy, like few others in the world, mentions something very important. Mind is a mysterious word because it hides in its double meaning noises, mind, plus us, ear, is the power of intelligence that develops through hearing.
Νους, όργανο λήψης αποφάσεων και σχεδιασμών.
Mente, organo decisionale e di pianificazione, nous, comprensione plus orecchio. Mind, decision make and planning organ, cognition plus ear.
Η ακοή αναφέρεται στο άκος και το άκος σημαίνει θεραπεία. Βλέπουμε τις λέξεις άκος και ους να είναι παρούσες στα Πυθαγόρια ακούσματα. Θεραπευόμαστε όταν μαθαίνουμε να ακούμε τα κατάλληλα ακούσματα.
L'udito si riferisce al accos e accos significa guarigione. Vediamo le parole udienze, acusmata, vuol dire us è l'orecchio, che sono presenti nelle udienze acusmata di pitagoriche. Guariremo quando impareremo ad ascoltare le udienze acusmata appropriate. Hearing is refers to the akos, and akos means healing. We encounter the words audience, acusmata, and us, ear, present in the Pythagorean audience, acusmata. We will heal when we learn to listen to the appropriate audience, acusmata.
Για τον Αριστοτέλη, ο νους είναι αυτό που κάνει τον άνθρωπο μοναδικό μέσα στη φύση.
Per Aristotele, la mente è ciò che rende l'uomo unico nella natura. For Aristotle, the mind is what makes man unique in nature.
Ο Αριστοτέλης διέκρινε το νου σε πρακτικό νου για πράξεις, αποφάσεις, καθημερινή ζωή, θεωρητικό νου για γνώση των πρώτων αρχών, της αλήθειας, των αιωνίων. Παθητικός νους δέχεται τις εντυπώσεις. Ποιητικός, ενεργός νους δημιουργεί, συλλαμβάνει τις έννοιες και τις αλήθειες.
Aristotele distingueva la mente in mente pratica, per azioni, decisioni, vita quotidiana, mente teorica, per la conoscenza dei principi primi della verità e delle cose eterne, mente passiva, riceve impressioni, ma mente poetica, attiva, che crea, concepisce concetti e verità. Aristotle distinguished the mind in practical mind for actions, decisions, everyday life. Theoretical mind for knowledge of first principles, truth, eternal things. Passive minds receive impressions, but poetic, active mind creates, conceives concepts and truths.
Σύμφωνα με τον Πλάτωνα, ο νους αποτελούσε την ανώτερη δύναμη της ψυχής. Λέει ότι ο νους είναι ο οφθαλμός της ψυχής που βλέπει την αλήθεια.
Secondo Platone, la mente era il potere superiore dell'anima, afferma che la mente è l'occhio dell'anima che vede la verità. According to Plato, the mind was the higher power of the soul. He says that the mind is the eye of the soul that sees the truth.
Ο Πλάτων επίσης μας λέει ότι ο λόγος που ακούγεται και αφομοιώνεται ζωντανά είναι αυτός που διαμέσου της ψυχής διευρύνει τη διάνοια του μαθητή.
Platone ci dice che la parola che viene ascoltata e assimilata dal vivo è quella che attraverso l'anima espande l'intelletto dello studente. Plato tells us that the word that is listened to and assimilated live is the one that through the soul expands the intellect of the student.
Ο μεν ζων και έμψυχος λόγος, ο εν τη ψυχή του μανθάνοντος, ο δύναται αυτό να μείνεστε και επίσταται λέγειν και σιγάν προς ους δι.
Il discorso vivo e animato che nasce nell'anima dello studente, questo discorso può farlo difendersi e fare sapere quando parlare e quando tacere. The living and animated speech, which is born within the soul of the student, this speech can make him defend himself and make him know when to speak and when to remain silent.
Ο δε γραπτός λόγος ούκ έχει αυτήν την δύναμη, ούτε γαρ αυτό σε αυτό αμήνεται, ούτε άλλο δυνατός εστί λέγειν τα δέοντα.
E la parola scritta non ha lo stesso potere, non può né difendersi né dire a qualcuno cosa è giusto. And the written word does not have the same power. It can neither defend itself or tell someone what is right.
Ο Επίκτητος στις διατριβές λέει «Όταν ακούεις λόγων καλών, άνοιγε την ψυχήν ως έφορον αγρόν και μη μόνον έκστασιν έχε, αλλά και ενθύμησιν έμπρακτον».
Quando senti una buona parola, apri la tua anima come un campo fertile e non limitarti ad avere entusiasmo, ma ricordala in modo che diventi una realtà pratica. When you hear a good word, open your soul like a fertile field and don't just have enthusiasm, but remember in the way that becomes a practical reality.
Από τον Αριστοτέλη στον Πλάτωνα και τον Επίκτητο φαίνεται ότι ο λόγος ιδίαν έχει δύναμη υπέρ των άνθρωπων.
Da Aristotele a Platone ed Epicteto sembra che la parola ha un potere proprio, superiore e al di là dell'uomo. From Aristotle to Plato and Epictetus, it seems that the word has its own power, superior and beyond man.
Η ακρόαση του λόγου διάβλος εστίν. Διού πλατείνεται και μορφούνται ο νους.
Ascoltare il parlato è il canale che espanda e plasma la mente. So listening to speech is the channel that expands and shapes the mind.
Ο νους γίνεται έφορος τες του λόγου αρμονίες, ως περιγεί το σπόρο.
La mente diventa fertile con le armonie della parola, come la terra quando riceve il seme. the mind becomes fertile with the harmonies of speech, like the earth when it received the seed.
Ο Ηράκλητος λέει «Ούκα μου, αλλά του λόγου ακούσαντας, ομολογήν σοφόν εστίν, εν πάντα είναι».
Eraclito dice, quando non ascolti me, ma la giusta ragione, confesserai che è saggio che tutto sia uno. When you listen not to me, but to the right reason, you will confess that it is wise that all is one.
Όταν ο λόγος της ιδέας και της έμπνευσης λοιπόν παντρεύεται με τη συχνότητα της μουσικής, τότε ταξιδεύει μέσα από το αυτί μας, στο είναι μας, και εκείνο διαρχέεται, μεγαλώνει, επεκτείνεται, προσεγγίζοντας το ένα, την πηγή μας.
Quando la parola dell'idea e dell'ispirazione si sposa con la frequenza della musica, allora viaggia attraverso il nostro orecchio nel nostro essere e si diffonde, cresce e si espande avvicinandosi al uno, alla nostra fonte. When the word of idea and inspiration marries with the frequency of the music, then travels through our ear, in our being, and diffuse, develops, and expands, approaching the one, our source. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really, really much. Precious. We have heard really precious words by the Maestro Levi and by our Greek source. Abbiamo ascoltato delle parole molto belle e profonde, sia dal Maestro Levi che da Spiros, Kalivas e Eri. Adesso io vorrei, in questo momento, in questi ultimi minuti dell'incontro, vorrei darvi delle informazioni, perché nei progetti europei spesso diamo informazioni riguardo associazioni, riguardo lavori che vengono svolti e che riguardano i temi che vengono trattati nel progetto. E c'è qualcosa di molto importante, tra l'altro in questi giorni, il 9 ottobre ha inizio un corso di 24 incontri sul corpo umano, sul simbolismo del corpo umano, tenuto dal Maestro Levi. I switch to English. During European projects, usually we like to give information on initiatives, associations, or events that are connected to the subject of the project itself. Since we are talking about listening, and this is the main topic this evening, I would like to inform that there are courses coming on the 9th of October. There will be a course of 24 meetings on the symbolism of the human body. And this course is led by Maestro Levi attraverso il canale dell'Accademia Internazionale di Eufonia. Se possiamo vedere un attimo l'immagine, così vi do anche poi nella chat le informazioni per raggiungere questo website. Questo è il website dell'Accademia Internazionale di Eufonia, di cui io sono membro, e questo è il corso che terrà il maestro da giovedì 9 ottobre, il simbolismo universale del corpo umano. l'armonizzazione di corpo, mente e spirito. Se possiamo vedere un attimo il programma, giusto un secondo per darvi un input, grazie, se possiamo passare al programma e poi in chat vi metterò il link. C'è anche un altro corso che tiene l'Accademia Internazionale di Eufonia, questo è un corso un po' più breve ed è sul potere terapeutico del pianoforte. Ma vediamo intanto questo. Questo è il corso con questo tipo di tematiche. Far luce sulle nostre risorse interiori, corpo sano e mente sana, il corpo umano, la dimora della persona, il tempio nell'uomo, l'apertura del cuore e l'espansione dell'energia, attivare l'energia curativa, le parole terapeutiche nella filosofia perenne, il corpo come riflesso del macrocosmo, la corrente della respirazione, stimolare, trasformare ed equilibrare l'energia. Sì, se puoi farlo un po' più grande, sì, se si può ingrandire un attimo. Cuore e mente, l'udito e l'ascolto eufonico umanista, la trasmutazione delle energie negative, il corpo come strumento musicale, alleviare la tensione e incrementare l'energia per migliorare la concentrazione e rinnovare i sensi, i corpi sottili. Queste sono le tematiche che verranno trattate nel corso. Il corso si tiene settimanalmente, è online e ogni settimana viene poi inviata la registrazione, il video del corso ai partecipanti. Poi ce n'è un altro che invece è più breve ed è sempre per stare meglio, per imparare, per crescere, ed è sul potere terapeutico del pianoforte. Questo anche lo vogliamo mostrare e adesso lo vedremo qui nel nostro riquadro. Eccolo. E qui abbiamo un corso sul potere terapeutico della musica per pianoforte e dell'ascolto eufonico al servizio dell'essere umano. Possiamo magari andare un attimo in basso. Ecco. No, sempre nella presentazione, grazie. Ecco, questo per esempio è molto interessante da leggere, di Stuart Reed, che tra l'altro è uno scienziato che lavora con la cimatica, cioè per rendere visibile il suono. E dice: ascoltare e suonare il pianoforte offre alle cellule il grande dono della guarigione. Inoltre, l'esecuzione di musica per pianoforte registrata o dal vivo porta il vostro stato d'animo in uno stato di gioia, creando abbondanti quantità di dopamina nel cervello e nell'intestino, che a sua volta aumenta in modo massiccio il numero dei globuli bianchi, eccetera. Se volete le informazioni, le passo qui il link. Se per cortesia Paolo puoi passare il link nella chat. Sì, Antonella, si può partecipare al corso, certo, non sono ancora, partiranno in ottobre, quindi c'è ancora la possibilità di iscriversi, non per molti giorni, però sì. Però c'è la possibilità di iscriversi. Adesso metteremo nella chat il link dell'Accademia dove trovare queste informazioni. I say something in English for our English attendees. We were talking of a course that is very much related to the subject of listening. And there are two courses actually. taking place in October. Unfortunately, they will be in Italian. So they cannot apply for our English friends, but soon there will be in English as well. So it will be possible to take part in next courses. Grazie per il link, Paolo, se lo puoi aggiungere. Ecco, abbiamo fatto questa panoramica e spero che ci siano molte riflessioni e che abbiate avuto una piccola introduzione all'ascolto che possa poi farvi approfondire di più. Noi procederemo con il progetto Theo Music che mette insieme le pratiche del teatro degli oppressi con pratiche di ascolto. We hope that this evening you received stimuli to go on listening research on your own and with us, because you can connect with us anytime. We're here to just share and grow together. So any question, any information, any comments, any insight that you want to share, you can share it through our directly to the link that we are going to put now in the chat, to insert in the chat. And also, of course, we like that you go on looking for the new steps of the project, which is Theo Music, combining the theater of the oppressed with listening and music. So it will be a very creative project that will have in-person workshops in Cyprus and in Italy, and you all are invited to come. There will be free workshop for 3 days, and we hope you can join so we can have directly in practice what we are envisaging as the next steps and the next practices. There will be other products in the project that will be a toolkit for operators, a toolkit for especially for social workers, artists, community artists working with migrants, refugees, and other kind of disadvantaged groups in our society. And a video, and then there will be a video that will show what we're doing, and hopefully this will be inspirational to you. Speriamo di avere ancora la vostra presenza nei prossimi gradini, nei prossimi passaggi del progetto Theo Music, che come appunto spiegavamo, unisce, crea una fusione tra le pratiche del teatro degli oppressi di Boal con l'ascolto, con pratiche di ascolto e di musica. Quindi sarà un passo creativo di questo tipo di attività, e avremo anche delle attività e dei workshop in Italia e a Cipro, dove siete tutti invitati. Sono workshop di 3 giorni direttamente con l'audience, con il pubblico, che naturalmente in questo tipo di pratiche diventa parte attiva